Finance and Governance Committee for June the 8th. And roll call and posting the agenda. And I'm sure Basu is going to meet us, join us later. Go ahead. Mhm.
Thank you. Sorry, Mayor. Councilmember Turan,
Here.
Chair Zaragoza,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Yeah,
The posting of this agenda to the kiosk outside of City Hall, agenda for this meeting was posted on June 1st.
okay, thank you. And please join me with a salute to our flag. And I'm sure that Councilwoman Basu is going to join us a little later. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. So we have one public speaker for items not in the agenda, and it's Ronald Araujo. Ronald, 3 minutes.
Mr. Arroyo?
Uh, Yes, hello.
Yes, good afternoon. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. Thank you, City Clerk. Good afternoon, Mayor and Committee. My name is Ronald Araujo. I want to note for the record that even though I am the Secretary Treasurer of the East Village Council and the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission, I am speaking on behalf of just myself as a private citizen. As you probably already know, every 10 years after the federal government publishes updated census information, California must redraw the boundaries of its electoral districts so that the state's population is evenly allocated among the new districts. In 2008, California voters passed the Voters First Act, authorizing the creation of the Independent California Citizens Redistricting Commission to draw new state Senate, state Assembly, and state Board of Equalization district lines. 2020 will be only the second time the commission will draw lines in California. On Thursday, June 10, the commission will launch the first in a series of communities of interest virtual hearings to capture community-specific data that will help commissioners to respect community boundaries to the best of their abilities when drawing district lines as mandated by California's line drawing criteria. When the commission begins drawing maps using census data, they will need to follow a set of criteria as outlined in the California Constitution. One of those 6 criteria is to minimize the division of counties, cities, neighborhoods, and communities of interest to the extent possible. The commission can obtain the city and county information from those jurisdictions, but they need the neighborhood and communities of interest information from Californians directly. As stated by the chair of the commission is excited to hear directly from Californians about their communities of interest during their initial input meeting on Thursday, June 10th from 12 to 8 p.m. Although they have been accepting communities of interest submissions online since March, these virtual input sessions are yet another opportunity for communities to share with the commission about their communities of interest. Personally, I don't know exactly how I got so passionate about redistricting, but it was enough for me to speak in front of the Oxnard City Council for the first time ever 3 years ago when the city was voting on city council district maps. When there was a call for applicants by California, I was excited to apply and was able to get through the 20,000 initial applications of interest, first round of a minimum criteria review, bringing it down to 2,000 applicants, and a second round of initial selections based on our application materials, which left 600 remaining. Unfortunately, I didn't get to the final round that whittled down the number to 200, at which point the California legislature used a series of direct and indirect selections to get to the 14 now on the commission. I am urging this committee and the full city council to find additional ways to get the word out that these are as important as the census and arguably more so. Of the 14 members on the commission, unfortunately, no one is from Ventura County, and so it is incumbent on all of us to make sure that Oxnard's neighborhoods and our surrounding community of interest are at the virtual table so that we ensure that our legislatures
Your
will
time
be
is
more
up.
responsive to us. Please go to the website, wedrawtheline.ca.org for more information. Thank you for your time.
Ronald, thank you so much. That's extremely important information, and redistricting is really important. I'm sure that the county and all of us are going to be looking at that. Thank you so much for that input. Our next item is item C, and that's the consent item, and we have from the City Clerk Department approval of the minutes. Recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee approve the minutes of February 9th, 2021, and February 23rd regular meetings as presented.
I would move to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, second. Approval by
Second.
John. Okay. Councilor Basua.
Second.
Let the record show that Councilor Basua is with us already, and she's second that motion. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Councilmember Basua,
Yes.
Chair Zaragoza.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Our next report is Human Services Department. Is the delegation and retirement plan functions. The recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution of number 1, appointing the administrator for the city's 457B and 401A plans, and also number 2, delegating the amendment authority over to the city's 457 plan and 401A plan. And this again was required by Azure M. It's a pre-recorded presentation. And I think we're going to have Mike Moore in case, or Steve in case we have any questions. Council members? No questions. Council Basua? Just Michael, I think those 457 plans and 401 plans are really excellent programs, for the city. And if we have any city employees, join, save some money. You always pay for yourself. You pay for the bills. You pay for the mortgage and so forth. It does not hurt to pay yourself through one of those plans. And I think the 457 does not have a matching. And does the 401 have a matching to that, Michael? You unmute yourself. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the 401A plan is a city contribution plan, which is made on behalf of employees. So I believe it varies by employee group. Some have 0.9%, some have 1% or more. So it is the city contributing on behalf of employees for their retirement.
That's an excellent plan. And the 457 is not, right?
The 457 is employee contributions only, but we have a very good participation rate, and we have a very good plan now that we've consolidated to Voya. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Excellent plan. Council members, any other questions, concerns? If not, we need a motion.
I'll go ahead and move the recommended action. I'd just like to thank Mr. Moore and HR for bringing this forward. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. Okay.
I will second.
Second by Councilwoman Basua. Roll call.
Councilmember Basua,
Yes.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes.
Chair Zaragoza.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0.
Our next item is City Manager Department. This is the City of Oxnard Whistleblower Summary Update. And the recommendation is the Finance and Governance Committee recommend to the City Council to receive and file the update on the whistleblower matters. And the presentation will be live upon consultant's request. And this Sherry Klima is available if we have any questions in the whistleblower program.
Yeah, council members, Mayor, thank you so much. We have Price Page and Company. They are our whistleblower hotline operators, and Henry Ohm is here for the presentation from that company. And so I can turn it over to Henry.
Thank you very much, Sherry.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Zaragoza. Good evening, council members of the Finance and Governance Committee and the City of Oxnard residents. You might be familiar with me in this process. We have reported this matter out for the past couple of years. Just to quickly summarize for everyone who's tuning in that may not be aware of the whistleblower program that's managed by our firm Price Page & Company, which is an outside independent accounting firm. We've been doing this for the past 3 years for the city of Oxnard, and we basically collect and report and potentially investigate matters that come to our attention that's related to fiscal matters of the city. So as a result of that entire process, we report out to the Finance and Governance Committee on a periodic basis. So I'd like to call up our PowerPoint presentation that we have, please, that I'd like to share with everyone.
Sherry, who's got the
Madam
PowerPoint?
Clerk, are you sharing the PowerPoint?
Okay,
No, I'm sorry, I do
Do-
not have that PowerPoint
Diego, you gonna help us out?
available. Did they send it to you?
No, Henry.
I have it on
Henry?
screen available. I have it on
You don't
screen
have to
available.
share your screen.
Yes, let me do that. I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Henry.
Mhm.
Here we go.
Mhm. Mhm.
And let me know if you could see that. Is that a full screen or is that just
We can see it.
We can see it, but it's not a full screen.
it's not a full screen? Okay.
Mhm.
Do this.
But it's legible. Yeah.
Let's do this. I want to make sure everyone can see this.
Mhm.
Okay, is that a full screen now?
There you go.
Much better.
Yeah,
thank you.
that's better.
Awesome, awesome, great. Okay. Again, we've made this presentation to the City of Oxnard Finance and Governance Committee for the past couple of years, and I'd like to summarize and provide an update to the Finance and Governance Committee and the City of Oxnard regarding what we've collected thus far. Just to give some context and some background to this whistleblower program, again, this was established back in 2017, in which the City of Oxnard established this whistleblower program. At the time, we served as the internal auditors to the City of Oxnard, which we investigated different matters, as well as helped with various projects. Our current role is to manage and monitor that whistleblower program going forward as well. But this whistleblower program really was designed to receive complaints from city employees, residents of the city, and members of the general public who wish to report what we call as improper governmental action. And that's a very broad term. But complaints received by our firm shall remain confidential, and the identity of the complainant is not going to be revealed without the permission of the complainant, except to the appropriate law enforcement agency conducting that criminal investigation. So I do want to reemphasize to those who may be watching that when we do receive those complaints, we do not share the identity of the complainant with the city management unless there's a specific reason to share with law enforcement agencies conducting an investigation. So wanted to reemphasize that.
Thank you.
And to be clear, although we receive a number of complaints that are what we consider to be outside the scope of the whistleblower program for investigation, we welcome all complaints because we receive that and share that with the Finance and Governance Committee as well as the City of Oxnard. But the emphasis is that our firm will only focus on fiscal related matters. So other matters that are received through the program will be forwarded to the appropriate department. Now you might think that, geez, if I submitted a complaint, someone's going to know that I submitted that complaint. Well, we actually screen and we will redact sensitive information and we forward that to the appropriate department in which they are able to address the situation. So obviously, if there's a complaint about a department management member, we're not going to send that complaint to that department manager. We work with city management to determine the most appropriate department and personnel to send that to. After receiving the complaint, our firm will evaluate the complaint for merit prior to launching an investigation. So this doesn't mean that we investigate every single complaint that we receive. We have to screen for what we call as predication to determine if there's any merit to pursue an investigation. And again, fiscal related matters. It doesn't mean that other matters that are received that are code violation personnel complaints aren't reviewed, but it's not reviewed under the whistleblower program. They are forwarded to the appropriate department. As I mentioned earlier, predication, the term predication is defined by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners as the totality of circumstances that would lead a reasonable, professionally trained and prudent individual to believe a fraud has occurred, is occurring, and or will occur. So there's a lot of judgment and subjectivity to this, where we're making that assessment of whether a matter is relevant or has merit for investigation. So again, we don't investigate everything that comes through the whistleblower program. We have to screen it for that predication to determine if merit exists. So there's a number of ways we screen for predication and merit. So there's a priority assessment that we go through. And there's two components to it. There's a quantitative assessment and there's a qualitative assessment. And I'll go through the qualitative assessment shortly. But under the quantitative assessment, we obviously recognize that the city of Oxnard does not have unlimited resources. So we have to determine thresholds and scoping criteria for where we conduct these types of investigations. So matters that we believe provide exposure to the city and above of $75,000 collectively, we would consider to be higher priority. Any matters between or assessed between $25,000 to $75,000 falls under the category of medium, and anything less than $25,000 would be considered low priority. Now, again, it doesn't mean that it's not important, but from a quantitative perspective, they fall under these categories, okay? So once we go through this assessment, we go through the qualitative assessment as well. It doesn't matter how much dollars are involved, but if it matters that it involves high level of management, potential collusion of wrongdoers, we would consider that to be a high priority or higher priority under the qualitative assessment. Medium priority would be any potential abuse of authority, employment or employee involvement, medium to low employee involvement. Low priority would be isolated instances of time abuse, wasteful practices, things of that nature. So again, we combine both the quantitative and the qualitative assessment to make a determination of whether we should pursue an investigation and where does it fall on the priority list. We last reported complaints received up through November 23rd and presented that back in December of 2020. These are the complaints that have been received from November 24th through May 18th of 2021. So as you can see here, there's a total of 20 items that have been received, 20 complaints that have been received. So what we do is we maintain this database, we maintain this log of information. We identify the incident, we identify the primary type of allegation, inappropriate use of city resources, hostile work environment, COVID-19 safety concerns, matters that might be unrelated to the city. We basically categorize the type of allegation. We report out to the Finance and Governance Committee the source of submission. There's a number of ways people can submit complaints to us under the whistleblower program. There's a link on the city's website in which complainants can go through and submit complaints through that website. They can email us directly as well. Our contact information is available on the City of Oxnard, and we receive those emails directly, as well as phone calls and mail. So those are all mechanisms in which people can report potential fraud, waste, or abuse to us under the whistleblower program. So that's the source of submission. Then we determine the priority. Again, the priority, we take the quantitative and the qualitative assessment to determine if there's anything to pursue. And the last column on the right is the current status. Where do we stand in terms of this allegation? So as you can see here, out of the 20 allegations that have been received, many are non-fiscal related and have been forwarded to the appropriate department. Remember, we are focused on fiscal related matters. It doesn't mean that if we receive a complaint, it doesn't get forwarded to the appropriate department. So for example, you can see some of the items listed on here are COVID-19 safety concerns. Those are not fiscal related matters, so we do forward them to the appropriate department. Here's another summary of the complaints that have been received from November 24th through May 18th. Again, a total of 20 complaints received. We have sorted this by the type of allegations. Inappropriate use of city resources, hostile work environment, COVID-19 safety concerns, code violations. So as you can see here, there's quite the balance of the type of allegations received. Hostile work environment, 3, personnel complaint, 3. Then under the 2, we have COVID and other code violations. So of the 20 complaints received, none met the criteria or had sufficient information to pursue an investigation. So I also want to emphasize to the viewers that if you are submitting a complaint, please submit as much detail as possible. There are a lot of times where we get a complaint that might appear to be valid, but there's extremely light information or there's no contact information available. So as a result of that, it's very difficult to pursue or determine predication if there's not enough information to to review. We're not going to go on a witch hunt with a lack of information. So that needs to be considered when the complaint is received. So again, none of the 20 received were considered to be fiscal related, and none were investigated. This is a summary of all the complaints that have been received by fiscal year. Again, we've started this process in the calendar year of 2017. So the first fiscal year was 2018. So we summarize this by the last 4 fiscal years, 2018 through 2021. So of the total complaints received, there was a total of 99. And the most was received thus far in 2021. But as you can see, a majority of it were related to COVID, and COVID was a unique year for 2020 and 2021. Okay, 25 received in 2018, 14 received in 2019, 29 received in 2020, and 31 was received in fiscal year 2021 thus far. So as you may be asking yourself, geez, of the 99 complaints, what did we do with those? The top 3 categories were COVID safety concerns. The second one was matters unrelated to the city. So this might be a noise complaint, ordinance complaint. An example would be my neighbor's parking across the street and he's left this car there for 5 days, or a week. We get those complaints from time to time. And the third one is personnel complaints, potential abuse of authority, or my coworker isn't doing their job. The things of that sort we get from time to time. And again, we forward those matters to the appropriate department and HR as deemed appropriate. So to date, we have substantiated and investigated a total of 2 of the 99 complaints received as a part of this whistleblower program. So as you can see, the ratio for what we investigate is fairly low in our view, 2 of 19, about 2%. So that means that most of the complaints received are not related to fiscal matters of the city and have been forwarded to the appropriate departments. I know that was a very quick summary of the whistleblower program and what has been received thus far in fiscal year 2021. But if there's any specific questions I can help answer, I'd be happy to do so at this time.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that council members have one quick question before we go to Council Member Turan is the top complaints were COVID-19, matters unrelated to the city, and personnel complaints. This is all city personnel and none other
Correct.
than city?
Correct,
Okay.
city personnel.
City personnel. Okay, and Councilmember Turan.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Ohm. I really appreciate it. This is really great information. I hope the public can see this live tonight and take in this information. Really quickly, I have 2 questions. One is regarding the, you had already stated it, but I just kind of want to revisit it. The firm you work for is a separate entity and independent of the city, correct?
That is correct.
All right, thank you for that. And I just want to make sure that, because you already stated this as well, but members of the public or even City of Oxnard employees can know that this is a hotline or a avenue where they can provide complaints or concerns in an anonymous way, and it won't go directly to the city. It goes to your firm, correct?
That is correct, Councilmember Turan.
Great, thank you. And my last question is in regards to slide number, well, they don't have numbers, my apologies. The one that says whistleblower activity report, it's the complaints between November and May. And one more back. Yes, this one. So where it says incident number, I see that it has kind of like an identifier to 2021 1-1, then 1-2, 1-3. At first I thought those are dates, but it looks like they may actually just be how you're identifying them for this particular period. Is that correct?
That is correct. Great observation. That's how we index and keep track of the complaints that have been received.
Okay, great. I was thinking, wow, there were no complaints in November, December. There haven't been any since February. So we're doing pretty well, but I appreciate that. It actually doesn't correlate with dates. It's just how you're tracking them as they come in. Okay.
That is correct, Councilmember.
Great. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the information.
Thank you, Councilwoman Basua.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. I do have a question. Like you mentioned in your presentation, we have a 2% of cases that are being looked at. And the rest of the cases you might not know, but do you determine where they go, or are they just being directed to one person? I know you said different departments. And I'm just wondering how, and I mean, maybe this is not even for this subject, but I'm just wondering how we're determining where those calls are going to.
That's a great question. We actually work with, again, city management to determine the appropriate department. Now, I can tell you that if there are personnel complaints, I do work with the HR department to handle those matters. I do want to emphasize again, though, that if the complaint is about that department, we do not forward that specific complaint to that department. We are going to work with city management that's unrelated to the matter to determine where that complaint goes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's all the questions I had. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. I think the important thing for the employees to know is that all this concerns or complaints remain confidential, which I think is extremely important for our employees to understand. And the important thing, I think, that you've said that we focus on fiscal matters, because there's probably a lot of complaints that don't fit anything for that matter. So consequently, I think that's important that we do that. And also the important part that I kind of find here is the assessment on what are the type of the high priority, the medium and low. The high priority involves high level management and collusion and multiple wrongdoers. I believe, I'm not sure, that somebody that complains about them must have some very, very good data to really involve or complain about a high priority of a high level management, collusion, multiple wrongdoer. Is that correct? I mean, how we just can't say, hey, this high level employee is doing X, Y, and Z without the proper information and data. Is that correct?
That is correct. So when we do receive that type of information, again, we want to emphasize that we need enough information to pursue and screen it for predication. A lot of times, and I can tell you the majority of times, since we do monitor this program, we receive a complaint or an allegation and there's no contact information. There's no substance for us to try to track down that nature of the complaint. So it's very difficult to do. So it's important that we have enough information to pursue these instances if they are valid and have some merit.
Yeah, and the last question I have is on the low priority. What kind of wasteful practices, and do you have quite a few of those complaints?
We actually don't have a lot of those complaints. We have some, though, of the 99. We do have some wasteful practices. A lot of them are time abuse, or my coworker's not doing his job or her job. I'm doing their job for them, things of that sort. But majority of them aren't violations of contract or anything like that at this point.
The other concern that I've heard, not because I was also with the county of Ventura, a lot of people say, well, it doesn't make a difference whether we have a whistleblower or not, because they don't pay attention to it. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that the information, the program established by the city speaks for itself. Of the 99 complaints that we did receive, we actually investigated 2. So if there was 99 and we investigated 0, maybe there might be some concerns there. But the nature of the matters that we have investigated, matters that have been brought to our attention. So I think it is an effective and valid approach to collecting information.
And I agree. I come in that I believe that employees should be concerned and should report, and we take this very seriously, because I think it's extremely important, because we're dealing with taxpayer dollars, and we want to make sure that our constituency gets the best dollar for its value that we have. So I want to thank you for an excellent presentation. Councilmember Teran, you have another question? Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for the extra time, Mayor. Just a really quick question for Mr. Ohm. Something that came to mind after this discussion that we've had. Prior to my appointment, I had one instance which might fit this kind of for guidance for the general public, of someone saying that, oh, I see a particular city employee or city truck every day at a certain school and there's an employee taking a nap there for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. It just so happens that as an educator, I travel to many schools throughout the county, and I couldn't verify that, and I go to that school fairly often. But something like that, I said, well, next time take a picture, next time take a video, or, you know, if that's truly happening, you know, you should let the city know about it. But it seems that this would be a viable avenue if something like that comes up where there's like wasteful practices, as you had mentioned, or abuses of time. The general public can use this system to report these items that they say they're seeing, correct?
That is correct. And that's a very valid point. We've actually had instances of that, but the information that's provided is they just see a truck parked across the street. And so there's no picture, there's no information for us or any other department to pursue to try and correct that instance. So it's very difficult to try and correct these matters without that information. So yes, if they provide more information, it would be helpful as a part of that process.
Okay, so when you say as detailed as possible, it sounds like that's what we're looking for, right?
That's correct.
Great, thank you. And thank you again, Mayor, for the extra time.
Yeah, and also, by the way, just for information, most of our equipment have numbers, you know, on the equipment. So if we have an equipment that's 2019 or whatever the number is, I hope they know there's no 2019 parked for 30, 40 minutes in a improper location. They most likely the supervisor can find out who was driving that equipment and or operating that equipment and so forth. Anyway, Councilwoman Basua, any additional questions?
No, thank you. Thank you for the great presentation.
Okay, and I want to thank you, council members. This is again, you know, that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend the City Council receive and file an update on this whistleblower matters. Do we need a motion for that, Mr. City Attorney? No? Okay, well, thank you. Then we'll send that over to the City Council. And again, thank you for an excellent presentation. We do.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
Going to
Council
council,
members.
we need to recommend, yes, we need a motion. An action, okay.
Yes, I would move the recommended action
Thank
to
you.
send this forward to City
I will
Okay.
second.
We got a first by Councilman Tehran and second by Councilwoman Basua. Roll call. And this is again to send to the, recommend to the City Council.
Chair Zaragoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Basua,
Yes.
Councilmember Tehran.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. And council members, our next item is any items for future agendas for this committee? Councilman Tehran.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Something that came to this committee at our previous meeting and then went forward to council is regarding CFD 5 for River Park. And subsequent to that item coming before us, I've had quite a few contacts from residents of the neighborhood regarding the CFD. And I would like to request that the city manager please look at the CFD, look at the agreement, and look at what we're doing with that current assessment. If this is the only path we have, or if we have alternatives, I'd like to request that. I apologize for the short notice, but if he could come back at our next council meeting to report with what he finds on that.
And that's CFD 5, you said?
Yes, correct.
The
Or
city
River.
manager is concurring, he says yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Basua,
I'm good. Thank you.
and I'm good too. Then with that in mind, we're adjourned. Thank you so much. Okay.